Welcome to the Why Not podcast with me, Chrissy Hawkins. In a world where everybody always asks why, I'm here to ask, why not? I'll be breaking down the mindsets of guests as well as my own in a bid to find out what makes people say, why not? Welcome to the Why Not podcast with me, Chrissy Hawkins. I'm a fitness coach and part-time equestrian. My aim with Why Not is to help people overcome mindset issues they may have by relating my own experience and what I've learned. Also, bringing on guests to relay their experience too. Hope you enjoy. Okay guys, hey, welcome back to the Why Not podcast. So I have a bit of a, interesting, strange topic? I don't know. The topic I have today I want to talk about is called getting back up on the horse. So I mean this both figuratively and literally. Some of you may know already that I horse ride, and I've been horse riding since I was 7. So I'm 29 now. It's a long time. And one thing we are taught always growing up as a horse rider is the term always get back on the horse. So if you fall off, literally, if you fall off a horse, they're like, get back up straight away. Like literally straight away. Because if you don't, you're kind of giving yourself the time to get nervous and get worried. And next time you get up, you will be more scared of what you were doing. Obviously, there is scenarios where you can't get back up on the horse straight away if you're injured. But 9 out of 10 times when you fall off, you land not safely, but you land in a way that you're not injured, for want of a better description. So I think this principle can be applied to life. Obviously, it's already a well-known saying to get back up on the horse if something goes wrong, and we don't always do that. But I want to tell you a few stories in my experience of literally getting back up on the horse and how it may have affected me. And this is kind of more in the gauge of the actual realm of horse riding, because I'm not always great at getting back up on the horse on my own failures, but maybe some of it is translated true. We'll find out now. I'm going to start with, I've owned my own horse for 13 years now. And before that, in the 10 years or so, near 10 years, I was horse riding. I was doing lessons once a week. And I only fell off twice in that time. 13 years later, I can't tell you the amount of times I've fallen off. I can tell you the most recent one, but I can't tell you how many. And that is partially due to the fact that I was horse riding more, maybe less predictable animal. But anyway, that is just a story that doesn't need to go into detail-wise. I don't need to go into detail with, don't need to go detail-wise. Anyway, again, I digress. So the first time I ever fell off a horse was when, I don't know how old I was, to be honest. I was riding a couple of years at this stage, and it was a pretty bad fall. Like, after your first fall, I landed on my head, like straight down onto my head. And we were out on a hack at the time, so we were out, not in an arena. And I fell down, and it was middle of summer, so the ground was really hard, like dried out hard. So I fell, so it was a pretty heavy fall. And the horse, the fecker, ran off on me. And he joined the rest of the group, because I'd been left behind slightly, because this fella was deciding he was eating instead of following the crew, realised the crew was gone, took off, stopped dead for another piece of grass, and that's how I came off. Now, when I came back around the corner and I caught up with the rest of them, the instructor told me to get back up, and I refused because I was really mad at the horse and he was a right little prick. And no, point blank, wasn't getting back up, wasn't happening. I still remember you, Charlie. I'm still not a fan of you. But what happened after that was, for a long time after, I was really, really nervous. Any type of thing I was doing on the horses, like, I nearly gave up after that fall. It was so bad. And the fact I never got up, potentially if I'd have gotten back up, even with someone leading me, I might have been a little bit okay and felt better after. However, I didn't. I refused, and I spent a long time, I'd say at least a year, if not longer, getting my confidence back up, getting to a point where I was comfortable in control of horses again myself. So That was my first fall. And like that, as I said, I didn't get back up, and it really affected me for a long time. Now, fast forward to, I think it's about 6 or 7 years ago now. I had Sam a while, and we went out cross country schooling. So, for anyone who has never gone cross country schooling or have never done cross country, it's outdoors. It's like, if you've heard of hunting and stuff like that. So, basically, you're outdoors, all the fences are solid. So, if you hit the fence, you go down, that kind of thing. So, it's a little bit more daunting. You really have to make sure the horses get up over them and stuff like that. Anyway, it came to the end of the session, and again, I ended up having this god awful fall. The result was I broke my nose. It happened at the end of the day. It was literally the last thing we were doing. And to be fair to Sam, it was a complete accident. So anyway, I went home with we brought Sam home. I went home with blood gushing out of my nose, so much so that I had a cut in my nose and didn't realise till I was halfway home that it was actually a cut as well and not just my nose. But that was a scenario where I physically couldn't get back up on a horse. One of those few times it happens. Now, the funny thing about this is I knew he didn't do it on purpose. The thing was, he was actually trying for me. He wasn't actually being bold. There was nothing wrong. It was just a kind of freak accident. He headbutted me in the face coming up over a jump. That's what happened. Nothing malice in it. Nothing planned. Like, literally did not try to hurt me. And I think that also really helped. Now, coupled with the fact that I've fallen off quite a lot since that, I was a little bit braver. But the difference being is I didn't get up that day. But a couple of days later, with my nose the size of a balloon I couldn't breathe through, I was back up on him. I rode him right up to the day that I got the operation to fix my nose. Then I had a week where I couldn't ride. And as soon as I got the splint off, I was back up on him the next day, much to the dismay of my doctor. But look, nothing happened. We were fine. And that was a complete different mindset shift to my first fall, in which I refused to get up and was nowhere, didn't want to go near the horse. Whereas now I was like, no, what do you mean I can't get back up? What do you mean I can't ride for a week? That's ridiculous. So it's interesting to see the scenarios here, times when I didn't get back up and the difference. Now, as I said, it was an accident. I think this can relate back as well. Some things that happen to us aren't necessarily on purpose. So if you're doing something and something goes wrong and it's true nobody's fault, there's no reason you shouldn't go back to it. That's what I'm trying to say. So in the first scenario, I was put off because, well, it was the horse's fault, kind of my fault because I couldn't control him. But let's just say it was his fault. In this scenario, it was no one's fault really, and I was a lot braver about getting back up. Fast forward again, maybe a year or two later, we were doing lessons down in the field in the yard I was in at the time. And again, it was cross country stuff. So really, not really, like, but it was kind of tough stuff that's harder. And Sam, being Sam, was wired to the moon. And I mean, this animal, it was his mission to get me off when he got a chance. And I fought. 3 weeks in a row, while I went on those lessons, I ended up on the ground, walking up the field to go catch him, because when he got me off, he ran up to the top of the field, which I'll tell you now was a long walk. I was a good 10 minutes going back to catch him and coming back. And every time it happened, and this was his fault. This was him purposely trying to get me off. Now, once or twice he did it by accident. There was one day he managed to jump me off, but that's, again, I'm just kind of digressing there. But this was another mindset shift, in a sense that I was not going to be beaten by him. He was trying to get me off, and I was like, nope. Well, he did get me off, but I was like, I'm not going to be beaten. I'm going to get back up and I'm going to go straight back down. I think that shows, years of conditioning brings you to a situation where it's no longer daunting. So in the first case, it terrified me. In the second case, I didn't blame him, so it was okay. And in the third case, I was like, you fucker, you're not going to win. And I think when it comes to things we do in life, it's very easy to become the first case and walk away because it's scary and you don't want to face it. And sometimes we even still walk away in the second case because you can't see the fact that no one's to blame. You're not looking at the failure or the fall as feedback. You're thinking, who is at fault? Whereas if you look at it, there was no one at fault. Maybe in that scenario, if I'd have been paying more attention, I would have put my head back. Maybe if I'd kicked him onto the fence, he wouldn't have stopped and jumped from a standstill. Or maybe it was always going to happen and there's nothing I can do about it. And at the end of the day, I'm okay. He's okay. I got a free nose job out of it. Maybe I didn't plan it, but sure, look, I have it now. And that's okay as well, because sometimes things happen that you can't control. And if you can't control it, why not get back up and go into it? Like, say, for instance, you're trying to set some new habits and something comes up that you're not expecting. That doesn't mean you give up. It means the next day you start again. Or you're trying to hit a new target, a fitness target, and it doesn't happen. You know, that's okay as well. It'll happen eventually if you keep pushing through. And again, as I said, sometimes no one's to blame. You could have had this day built up in your head and you slept badly because of it. And then you don't have the energy to push through and get there. That's nobody's fault. And you shouldn't beat yourself up about it. And it's no reason you shouldn't try again. Maybe next time you'll be more prepared and you'll sleep better. There's so many factors that come into things that we don't think about and we give up. And that's just us. We're protecting ourselves, you know? It's hard to push yourself into something that you're not sure you're going to succeed with. But again, failure is always feedback. You can go back if it didn't work and look at what didn't work. Could you have eaten better coming up to what was going on? Could you have stayed off your phone to help you sleep and relax better? Could you, say it's a presentation of some sort, could you put more preparation into it instead of, again, scrolling through your phone? I'm nothing against scrolling through your phone. I do it a lot. I'm just kind of using that as an example because it's an easy one that we use to distract ourselves. Can you can you look at the things that didn't go right and find areas that you can adjust, which will mean it goes better next time? That's the best way of saying it, I think. And then think about it as well. Look back now on things that you gave up on. So if I go back to my first story there, I nearly gave up on horse riding after that fall because, as I said, I didn't get straight back up. I got so scared, my nerves went, and honestly, I didn't trust the animals. I was scared, and at the end of the day, you can never fully be in control, but the more confident you are, the easier it is. So let's look at something there. Come back to something that maybe you gave up on and you just stopped. Or maybe you're still kind of half doing it, but not putting all your effort in because you're afraid it won't work. What is that? What can you do to change that? What extra efforts can you put in? What are you skipping? And what is the reason you're afraid to put your full effort in and take control? So just sit there and think about it. And if not, even take a pen out and write it down. Look at things that you've stopped or you feel like stopping and write out why. And think about what has brought you to this point where you want to give up, you want to stop, or you have stopped. Does it come down to the fact that it was difficult, you weren't seeing your progress, not necessarily talking about fitness here. This could be anything. This could be a business. This could be the way you're eating. This could be a relationship or a started relationship. A lot of it I always come back to fitness, not unfortunately, but I come back to fitness a lot because it's what I work in. So it's a really good analogy for a lot of things, but I know this translates across the board into loads of different things. So where's that thing that you pulled back from? Why did you pull back from? Was it getting difficult? Were you unsure? Were you afraid of what would happen? Because a lot of it can come down to confidence and being fear. A great acronym for fear is false evidence appearing real. So false evidence appearing real. What false evidence appear real for you in these scenarios? Most of the things we're afraid of aren't actually imminent threats. Now, I'm not going to lie. If there's a bear coming down the road, which is very unlikely to happen here in Ireland, if there was a bear coming down the road, let's say he broke out of Phoenix Park and he's coming after you, run like hell. That's the real fear. But being worried something won't work, or being worried something will not be received well, or somebody won't be interested in you, that's not real fear, that's perceived fear. So it's the stories you're telling yourself that are making you pull back. What's the worst that can happen? At the end of the day, you'll learn from everything that doesn't work. Think of it that way. Failure is feedback. It's not an end. And I think that will bring me nicely on to my third story, where, as I said, 3 weeks in a row, I kept being thrown off and I got back up. And that was a scenario where you just had to keep being resilient, mentally resilient. I will not be beaten. I tell you now, I've come off several times since then. There's all different ways I've come off, but you name it, I have landed that way. Head, shoulders, back, feet, all of them. It's just, I think it shows after a time, when you get conditioned. I was literally physically conditioned to get back up. Sorry, I was conditioned to physically get back up on them, is what I meant to say. But also, in my head, I was like, I am not being beaten by you, you little shite. I called him many other names than that, and a lot more colourful language, but I'll leave that part out. But I mean, genuinely, this fella was trying to get me off as much as possible, was gone, so he could run off to the top of the field. He was just buzzing. And you know as well, he'd run up the top of the field and just pause and start eating, because why not add insult to injury? And anyway, this shows, I think, your final kind of mindset shift. How it affects your mindset and how you deal with certain scenarios, but look back on the things that you have been doing since you are a child, or maybe a teenager, something that's so embedded in you that it's like second nature, and see how that actually affects how you deal with other things in life. It's a very interesting thing to do. Sit down, write it down, look at the things you've been doing. It could be a sport, it could be singing, it could be reading, it could be anything. What way does it affect your life? You can look at it positively or negatively. Like, I personally am not fully certain of what negatives I have from horse riding, to be honest, other than a cranky animal. But it's not negative. I'm only playing. But you'll find a lot of things. Now, obviously, if you're a habitual smoker and you've done that for 20 years, there's some negatives there, health and stuff like that. But I'm not here to judge. It's just an idea. It's just one that came to my mind that people do for a long time that could be deemed negative. But stop smoking. And I think it's worth looking at. And then you'll find, as I said, if you take a deep dive into stuff that you've done for years, stuff that's like part of your psyche, part of you, part of your identity, that you may take for granted, not take for granted, but you just do automatically, you might find little habits and little things that you can learn from. In a sense, it's like an anecdote, I think, to a different mindset shift in that if you keep getting back up, you keep going, it becomes normal. So everything that's difficult becomes easier. Now, it's never always easy. It should never be easy. But the point I'm saying here is you keep getting back up. You keep doing it. Every time you come down or something gets in your way, you get back up and show it again. Every time. Not once, not twice. Every time. The harder the fall, doesn't matter. You get back up. The lighter the fall, it's easy. If you fall off a horse and land on your feet, standing beside him, it's a lot easier to get back up than if you land on your head. I'm telling you now. It's happened to me before. Come off my feet, he's standing there beside you going, what are you doing here? Well, I don't know. I wasn't planning it, but here I am. You literally just pop your foot in the stirrup and get back up. Sometimes you land heavier and it takes a few minutes. And I have had times where I've come down really, really heavy. Like my most recent fall was one where he tripped. So he fell and I fell. And I'm sitting there on the ground because I can't get up yet because my calf is cramped and everything hurts. And he's standing there in shock because he just face planted into the ground. And I'm there trying to comfort the animal who just planted me. But even in that scenario, I got back up. I did a lap or two and walk with him, just a few laps. Nothing major. And then we left for the day, and that was it. And that was a scenario where I had to kind of give confidence back to both of us. But the reason I'm saying this one is sometimes you will come down hard. You do not have to go straight back into what you were doing. However, if you do a light little bit towards it, it's easier to get back up again next time as well. So in my scenario, we did a little few laps of walk. So say, for instance, if you get an injury, training, or you miss a week, start small. Again, just a little easy, few little steps here and there. And that's enough. It doesn't have to go straight back into the exact training regime you're doing maybe 3-4 weeks ago, because chances are it'll be too much for you and you won't be able to do it. Same thing goes with every other different scenario. If you're trying to build a business and something goes wrong, take it back a few steps. Go back to where it was working and then build from there again. Don't go straight back to where it went wrong. If you're trying to eat healthy and you have, I say healthy, if you're trying to eat better food, whatever, I don't know the best way of wording this, but, and you go on a weekend binge, don't cut carbs for the week. Slowly integrate a few more veg during the week, drink more water, slowly things, and then you'll get back up to it. I think there's a lot we can learn from the things we do without even realizing it. And that was kind of the main point of this podcast. Something I could directly relate in experiences to something that people struggle with day by day. And it can be very hard to relate horse riding to people because not many people have done it. It seems it's kind of an obscure niche sport in a sense, but it does have its lessons over the years. Like I've spent 12 years working with someone who doesn't ever want to see me or want to do the work. So I suppose that helps as well when you come into PT, when you find people who don't want to train. And you learn to work with it or you learn to work around it. And it's funny, those life lessons that you take for granted because it's been so part of your life, it's just part of your life. So if you look at things that you have done over the years, what's something you've consistently done for 10, 15, 20 years? I don't know how old we are. I only really kind of acknowledged how this might have, in one sense, made me mentally tougher over the years because I was trying to think of podcast topics. And look at what you've learned from that without even realizing. Because as I said, we take it for granted, the things that have become so part of our life. They're almost part of our identity. and you don't realize how it filters in to other parts of your life. You'll only really acknowledge things that you're doing in the recent future, things that are still new to you and are still a challenge. You might see what's working for you there, or what it's changing in your mindset and and you can apply that to other parts of your life where you struggle. So I hope that made sense. Bit of a ramble. I'm trying to tie stuff together. I always ramble. Something new there. Anyway, as I said, I hope that makes sense. I hope that gives you a bit of food for thought for this lovely Friday, or whatever day you listen to the podcast on. Little food for thought for the day. And thank you again for listening. I love hearing any feedback, if possible, from people on how they're finding the podcast. Please share it on your stories or subscribe. I have most of my listeners on Spotify. See, if you are looking to contact me personally, you will find me on Instagram. It's Christy H Fitness. So CHRISSY, H for Hawkins, and Fitness. And you will find me also on TikTok, Acting the Messer, and it's Christy H Fit. So as I said, thanks again for listening. I really enjoy hearing any feedback possible, and if you have any, do please hit me up and let me know what you're thinking of the podcast. Thanks a million, and I'll talk to you next week. Thank you again for listening to Why Not. Please hit that subscribe button or leave a review. And if you have any suggestions or feedback, feel free to hit me up on social media.